What's up, everybody? It's your boy Toxeyboyo, and as I like to do around here, I'm getting to a topic extraordinarily late. Um, I probably finished 007 First Light, gosh, a month ago, and I mean, it came out, a month and a half ago. It came out at the end of May, so yeah, it's taken me quite a while to get here, but I've got update videos talking about why everything took so long. I'm not gonna front load this video talking about stuff like that. What we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about the game and what I liked and what I didn't like, and I'm gonna give this freaking game a number score at the end. Okay? Okay. First things first, Patrick Gibson is incredible as James Bond. He brings the charm, the snark, the swag, everything that you come to expect with 007, while taking liberties with the fact that this is a rookie agent. He's not even a 00 until the very end of the game. Spoilers. So he doesn't have necessarily the experience. He doesn't always know the right answer in every situation. But he's creative. He's plenty lucky, which is consistent with the movies. And he's kind of got what it takes to figure his way out of a situation, even if it's not necessarily the cleanest or stealthiest or most efficient way out. But I like that. I kind of like origin stories because, even for something like Casino Royale, that version of Bond is a lot more calm and collected. He's a lot more in control of the situation. And this version of the character isn't quite there yet. We're building towards that. And that really works for me. I also want to point out the fact that Patrick Gibson is Irish. We've got Irish people taking jobs from English people. I love that. I love to see that. But no. I remember when this game first got announced, 2 years ago, that there was going to be a 007 game from IOI, the same people that have been making the Hitman games. I knew I was going to play it right away. I was super excited about it. And honestly, I couldn't wait to get my hands on it. I didn't even really watch any trailers. I saw some mechanics, like how you can bluff your way through certain situations, or you have multiple paths to success, stuff like that. That's what I like. I am a big fan of stealth games. I love Hitman. I love Metal Gear Solid. I love Splinter Cell. I even love Assassin's Creed. And there's a lot of ideas here, especially having multiple routes and side objectives and opportunities and stuff like that, that you don't really see in games too much anymore. Assassin's Creed was big for this. One of the things I loved so much about Unity is that you did have several ways to go about killing one target or accomplishing one mission. That's one of the things that makes me hold it in such high regard. The franchise kind of dropped that concept shortly thereafter, or at least when I played Syndicate, I didn't really see much of it there. But 007 First Light does bring this back in a way that I really like. Another thing I like is the globe-trotting nature of the story. You go to all sorts of different places. You're going all over the world in a way that is very evocative of like an Uncharted game, especially Uncharted 4. And I've seen a lot of people compare this game to Uncharted. I've even seen people do that in a derogatory sense to say that the game is bad because it's similar to Uncharted. Well, Uncharted 4 is one of my favorite games ever made. So if I can play something that reminds me of that game, I'm gonna be pretty happy. I don't think that there's a possible way that you can convince me that a game is bad because it's evocative of a game as good as Uncharted 4. I just don't think it works that way, unfortunately. So while I do see those similarities and those intricacies that make the games alike to one another, I had a great time with that. A lot of times it's hard to find a game that does not remind you of Uncharted or Tomb Raider or something like that, and it's a lot more welcome here than it is in something like Star Wars Jedi Survivor or something like that. But going on from there, I want to kind of I want to be honest, obviously. This game is not quite what I consider a great game. I think that the story kind of leaves a bit to be desired because sure, you could say that it's because I've watched so much 007 and so many spy films in general, but the thing for me is I want the story to be transformative or to take me by surprise in certain situations, and this game doesn't really do that. The only time that I was genuinely surprised is to know that one character did not die when I thought they had. And when that happened, instead of being like, oh, I was like, really? And if you played the game, then you know who I'm talking about. If you haven't played the game yet, when you get there, you'll know it when you see it. Um, but as far as like character deaths and plot twists and stuff like that, I kind of saw it all coming. Um, Bond makes a lot of rookie mistakes here, but I'm not necessarily a rookie when it comes to 007. So a lot of these things and these reveals and these big shakeups, you kind of see coming from way down the street. And does it make the experience any less enjoyable? Not necessarily, but you can tell that those moments and those elements of the story are supposed to land with a certain amount of weight, with a certain level of impact. And for me, that just didn't happen. Now, mileage may vary. It might be very effective on you if you're not necessarily, somebody who's consumed a lot of stories like this before. Or if you consumed way more than I have, then it probably didn't even move you in the slightest. So when I say mileage will vary, that's what I mean there. It's not exactly the most transformative and, mind-blowing spy story, but it's perfectly serviceable and more or less enjoyable enough from start to finish. Now, if I'm going to talk about gameplay, I do appreciate the resource management aspects of it, where you have to pick and choose which gadgets you want to bring in. You have the laser, you have like a sick dart you can use, you have like a stun grenade, stuff like that. For me though, I didn't really ever consider bringing anything other than the laser and the sick dart for the majority of the game. I didn't ever really feel the need to diversify my kit very much. When you get the pen missile, who am I? When you get the pen missile, yeah, I started using that a lot, but that's, the last fourth of the game. So for, the vast majority of the game, I kind of never felt the need to adapt my playstyle too much. To talk about combat, I've heard a lot of people complain about it. It's a double-edged sword, because there's a lot of mechanics in this game, like the driving, like the gunplay, like the hand-to-hand combat, that are not exactly the purpose of the game. It's not what they want you to spend most of your time doing, but they built it into the game, so you do still want it to operate at a certain level. I think the combat is very good. It's easy to master. I don't think that they do too much to change it up from one enemy to the next. It's easy to get overwhelmed if you're fighting a crowd of like 5 guys. Yeah, you can get surrounded and beaten to death really easily. It's meant to make you feel a little underpowered, to discourage you from going in and just fist fighting everybody. They do not want you to punch your way out of every single situation, and that's very clear through the design philosophy of the hand-to-hand combat. I get that, and I can respect that. The driving, though, does not feel very good. You don't do a whole lot of it, but when you do have to interact with it, because, there's a mission where you spend like 5 minutes at the very beginning of it driving, it's just not very fun. I don't know. There's high-speed chases and stuff like that. It just never feels as good as it feels in other games. I know that this is not a driving game, but if you're going to force me to drive at certain points, I want it to feel a little bit better. The gunplay, when it's fun to be like, you're in battle, you run out of ammo on your gun, you throw it at a guy, you go and take his gun, you finish him off, you rinse and repeat that same process. The gunplay doesn't necessarily feel the best either. Some guys, it just feels like they take entirely too many shots to go down, even on normal difficulty. And it also sometimes feels like you can't exactly find anywhere to find good cover. I don't know. I know it's not a shooting game, but I do a lot of shooting in the game because there are a lot of scripted sections where you're just in open combat shooting at a bunch of guys who are also shooting at you. So in situations like that, again, you just kind of want it to feel a little bit better. That's not to say that it feels bad, but rather than feeling like, oh, cool, I get to be in another shootout, it's, oh, there's another shootout. It doesn't create hype the way that you would want it to when they give you a gun that has, 30 rounds in it and it's fully automatic. Does that make any sense? And I mentioned earlier that you can like bluff your way out of certain situations, that there are multiple routes you can take to try to solve one problem, except for when there aren't, and except for when you can't. Obviously, bluffing is never going to have a 100% success rate because it doesn't in the movies. That's totally fine. But sometimes you'll bluff your way past a checkpoint and have no idea where to go next. And the bluff only lasts, what, 15 seconds? So while you're figuring out what to do, you're in trouble again because they noticed you again. You know, like you ran out of time. And bluffing takes a lot of your like situation points or whatever they want to call them. So you can't really do it twice back to back. So you might have to either restart the checkpoint or just fight your way out of the situation that you tried to charm your way out of or stealth your way out of before. That doesn't necessarily feel great. And as far as using the multiple paths towards success, that's also a double-edged sword. Sometimes it's really rewarding to be like, oh, maybe this isn't like a less popular way to go. I kind of would have liked for the game to be like Detroit Become Human, and since it's online and has servers, I would have liked the game to be like, oh, you took this route along with this percentage of other players. These guys took this route, these guys took that route, so that on subsequent playthroughs, you can try doing it the other way. But sometimes, say you need to get into a room that's on the top floor, but you can't because you need a key card. Well, the key cards are being carried by employees who are going to be in the lounge on the second floor. Well, you can't get into the second floor because there's two guys in the way, and it's a huge room, so you can't go into open combat. It's like, okay, so I need to find a way around that. So you go up to the roof, but you can't exactly get right to the roof because there's a room that's guarded by 12 people, so you have to stealth your way around that. You get to the roof, and then that lets you drop down into the lounge to get the key card to get into the main room. Well, if you can find a way into the room on the top floor that you needed to be in, it leaves no reason to go searching for other things and other ways to go about it. It's just like, oh, well, this is the first one that I found, and considering the fact that I can't get into that room to get the thing that I need to explore this route further, I'm just going to give up on that. You know, I kind of wish that it felt more rewarding to go out of your way to find these other routes and these other paths, but ultimately, it kind of just all feels the same. Now, my intention is not to be fully negative. I had a lot of fun with this game. It's just similarly to a game like, you know, Fallen Order or something like that. I think that there is the bones here for a great sequel. I think that 007 Second Light, or whatever they want to call it, whatever that game ends up being, you know, 3 or 4 years from now, I think that that can be it could be an incredible game. It can be a spectacular, fantastic, it could be a game of the year contender. And for some people, this is already, which kind of just goes to show that, like, it doesn't really matter what one person thinks. A lot of people really love this game. I had a great time with it. I didn't want more. I want them to go bigger. I want them to do better things with the bones that we have here. There's so much to work with, so much foundation. That foundation is strong. It's very strong. So I'm obviously very optimistic for what we see in the future. However, this particular title just leaves a little bit to be desired. But all that being said, if I were to throw this guy on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give it a 7. And I know that 7 is a scary number because of IGN. But for me, you know, if I were to have to explain it, 4 or below is a completely terrible game that I would never recommend to anybody. 5 to 6, we're looking at a pretty good game that you can have a lot of fun with, but it's far from perfect, right? 7, 8, we're looking at a really good game with a couple glaring issues that hold it back from being fantastic. 9 is a great game that I would recommend to anybody, and 10 is one of the greatest games ever made. I would very strongly hesitate to give any game a 10. In fact, I don't even think I can give any game from the last decade a 10. Not even Uncharted 4, not even Elden Ring. So for me, since 10 is pretty much unattainable, 7 is the third highest score you can get. 7's pretty good. But yeah, I mean, that's all I really got for you guys today. Have you played 007 First Light? If you have, tell me what you thought of it in the comments below. While you're down there, go ahead and leave me a subscribe. So let me know that you like this kind of content. Leave a like while you're down there. That's all I got for you. I'll see you later.